Before we start today's roundtable, I want to give special thanks to Checkster, our group sponsor. Checkster has become well known in the recruiting industry by providing a platform that easily captures reference checks in the hiring process. I myself have been a customer of theirs for years. I use a reference checking tool for all of my new hires. However, Checkster has now released a new product suite called Insights. This new product suite is really what has excited me to have Checkster as the group sponsor. With Insights, the Checkster platform now covers employees from cradle to grave and not just reference checking, starting when they apply, going to offer, through onboarding, then covering their work at your company, and then to the end with exit interviews. It's an easy to use, easy to understand way of giving and getting feedback from your peers. Checkster's simple goal: to build more productive and passionate teams. Now, if this concept of getting insights from your peers regarding your work sounds familiar, it should, because that's the simple goal of this group: connecting, communicating, collaborating. Support me, support the group. Follow the link below, recruiting.org/Checkster. This will take you to a landing page to sign up for a quick demo. If you are just thinking about automating your reference checking process, it'll be well worth your time. But I encourage you to check out the full Insights suite. I'd love to find out if you feel the way I feel about it. Now let's get to today's roundtable. Thank you for attending episode 71 in Let's Talk Recruiting, where TA practitioners from across the industry get together and talk about various topics that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. Today, we're going to be talking about tips for building and managing talent pipelines. I am going to do an introduction of our panelists, and then we'll jump right into today's topic. With us, we have Amanda Mendez out of New York City. We have Kiara Hughes, who will hopefully be joining us. She's out of Phoenix. We have Michelle Randall Berry out of Boston. Michelle, congratulations. You have the longest name of any of my panel members ever. I had to kind of squeeze your name in there. Sorry about that.
That's
And then we have Glenn Marani out of New York City also. So let me stop that. Amanda, is it all right if we start off with you to jump into the conversation?
Perfect. Yeah. So hello, everyone. I'm Amanda Mendez. I currently work at TapAd. We're about 100-person company. I manage the technical recruiting here. I've been recruiting for about 8 years now, and started on the agency side, now internal. So getting into the fun stuff. So we're talking about building and maintaining pipelines. So when it comes to building, this is actually my most favorite part of my job. I have really taken on a lot of like the recruiting marketing piece of it, and I'm all about creating content and just getting the company out there, because our biggest problem is no one knows who TapAd is. So my job is to, get the name in front of people, because I think there's like the rule of 7 in marketing, where someone has to see your brand 7 times or interact with your brand 7 times before they actually engage. So constantly posting. One thing that has really helped me with this is creating a unique hashtag. So ours is TapAd Life. So anything TapAd related, I always include the hashtag, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all of these. And when I'm speaking to candidates, I'll send a follow-up email, and I'll encourage the candidates to check out the hashtag as well. You can Google it and everything pops up. One tip is to research your hashtag before you make it official. There's been some horror stories there, so make sure that you look it up before you really start promoting it. But that's the biggest thing that's helped me really brand TapAd, and just constantly posting organic, unique videos, cell phone videos. It doesn't have to be high production. Even now during Zoom life, it can be a little harder to create this content, but anytime you're doing little team meetings or happy hours, game nights, whatever that is, just take a picture, do a little boomerang. Anything like that is useful content to be posting across all channels. So highly encourage that. Talk with your marketing teams, get them involved, get them to help you. That's just like the building the pipeline side of things. And when it comes to maintaining, I'm big about using our ATS system, using the reminders. It's more about creating a habit there. And I've gotten in the habit of, anytime I get off the phone with a candidate, automatically set a reminder, whether it's 3 months out because it's just not a right fit, but I could see potential in the future, Or, for example, when COVID happened, we had a final candidate that would have gotten an offer, but we went on a hiring freeze. And every 2 weeks, I kept in touch with him, and I was just like, "Hey, look, we don't have an update yet, but I will let you know as soon as we do." And every 2 weeks I did that. And guess what? We opened up jobs August 1st, and he was still around, and he accepted the job. And that was like my most favorite experience, just like keeping in touch with him and really maintaining that relationship. So yeah, I think that's everything for me.
So Amanda, kind of circling back on the building part of it in the hashtag. So I'm assuming the hashtags are referring to like social media and whether it be LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, right? Am I on the
Yeah.
right path with that?
Yep.
So if you're putting content out there with that hashtag and people are seeing your content, do you have it set up where they can click on a link and join your pipeline or join uh, an email list or anything like that? What do they do once they see it and if they have interest?
No, that's I'm trying to think of ways of how to make that happen. That's just for me to have one place where I could just tell them, go to LinkedIn, go to Tapad Life. You can Google it, and then they will see all of the content that I've made. Just stuff to Tapad Life, exactly what it is. And everyone loves it because they can see whether it's myself posting it or whether it's my colleagues posting it. They can just get a more authentic feel of what Tabed Life is really like. And it's not all like pretty and polished as it would be if it was just coming from like the marketing or the company. So
Does your ATS, and this is kind of for all panelists, we just had the topic of ATSs yesterday. Does it have like, let's say I go to your career site and I don't find a matching position at the moment. Is there a way I can join a pipe? I keep calling them pipelines because that's what I've always called them, but to be able to sign up to hear about more about future jobs? A lot of ATSs are starting to have that where they can just sign up to hear more type deal. Does your ATS have that?
it doesn't have that specifically, but one thing I did during the hiring freeze around COVID, I just made a general application, and then I listed, there's two generals. So there's an engineering general and then a commercial general. So I focus on engineering. So I listed all the jobs that we could have in the future. So it was like, if you would be interested in the future, select which title you best identify with, something like that. And then I can take those people and kind of create a drip campaign that way.
Got it. Yeah, I think it comes down to, does your ATS support this type of piece, or if you're using the CRM? Yeah. For the other panelists too, about that building that Amanda was talking about, do you have ways where people can sign up to hear more, just for lack of better ways, if they don't find a current opening at the time, especially during COVID times? Do your tools support that?
No, not ours.
Are you talking about like a chatbot or something like that, Sean?
No, not a chatbot. It's basically just don't see what you're looking for, sign up to hear more. And then you click to sign up more, you give your name and email. And typically you'll have like a job family that you say, tell me more about, as a recruiter, we typically get put into the human resources bucket and hear more about resources, and then a job alert. I guess that's the phrase I'm looking for, to sign up for a job alert.
It's almost like a follower on LinkedIn, right? To your
Yeah.
company. Yeah.
We do have job alerts through our system that people can sign up for.
Yep. We have two ways. We have Kiata at Carvana. We have two ways. We have the online, we have the careers at carvana.com mailbox. And then we also have job alerts through our career site. So if you're interested in our career site 2.0, it'll have job alerts. So, yep.
So here's my deeper question I was trying to get to in a roundabout way. And I'll stick with recruiters as the example. Every job alert process that I've seen is basically one level. In the pipelines I've built in the past, it's always been two levels. So human resources, top level, recruiting, sub level. Human resources, HRBP, kind of the sub level. The reason why I always did two levels, because when I wanted to reach out back to, say, a recruiter, I didn't want to send them job alerts about an HRBP position. I only wanted to send them recruiting positions. But time and time again, I see ATSs that just go that one level. But when we talk about defining our pipelines and really, this pipeline is for the X people, this pipeline is for the Y people, how are you kind of defining your people to reach out to them later?
They set the job alert.
Who's they?
The candidate chooses the keywords to have the job alert sent to them.
Okay, so they can do keywords. Okay.
Yeah.
Michelle?
I was going to take it to sort of next level beyond sort of just job alerts and sort of ATS stuff because to get to your point of sort of like how are we capturing sort of pools of talent that are going to fit roles that we know we're continuously sourcing for. What I've actually done is, so I'm Michelle Randall Berry, I'm with IGT, and we're about a 12,000 employee global organization, gaming and entertainment company. And with our team, what we've done recently is we've actually established what we're calling sourcing cohorts. And so these are basically global teams, so we've taken the global team, kind of created these 3 different sourcing cohorts of like recruiters. So recruiters are in different locations, but recruiting for similar roles. And we actually have them partnering together in sort of key areas. So like digital and interactive, corporate support roles, field operations, manufacturing, and kind of doing ongoing proactive sourcing, which includes kind of managing very similarly to some of what you're getting at, Sean, sort of managing those folks where we've established some kind of a relationship, where we're looking to sort of continue that, that relationship. So then they are captured within our sourcing projects that we have established, so that we can have ongoing communication and follow-up. It also allows for the team, sort of some neutrality in that, anybody from the team can search in those projects as well.
When you say projects, what are you specifically referring to?
So we've been leveraging LinkedIn projects.
Okay.
And we've been able to set those up with so that we can put multiple recruiters, and we can even invite hiring teams. We can invite people partners. Sorry, that's what we call HR business partners at IGT, is people partners, and sort of set it up so that people can share together.
Okay. Is anybody else using projects in LinkedIn? Because I'm a big fan of it. When the audience signed up, you could, put in a recommendation. Nobody mentioned LinkedIn, which I was kind of surprised by.
Oh, well, on October 12th, LinkedIn rolled out its new LinkedIn recruiter tools that is like on crack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's crazy. They're becoming their own ATS almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, LinkedIn projects is a whole new crazy thing right now. LinkedIn recruiters
it's great.
stepped it up a notch.
Exactly. Like we've been able to even use it. We can pull reports from there so that we can show exactly the activity that we have. We also received, we just bought Talent Insights, which is another tool that they have that gives you labor market insights. It's an incredibly powerful, really robust tool.
We actually at Carvana, we give all of our software engineers, because that's a huge hiring thing at Carvana, is our software engineers recruit for their team members. All the hiring managers, everybody with a certain title and above has a LinkedIn recruiter seat so that they can recruit for themselves.
How many seats do you have?
A lot, hundreds.
Yeah, our relationship is we have an enterprise license, so ours is unlimited. So so anybody can have one.
Same. And then we do recruiter trainings so that everybody learns how to use recruiter. But honestly, like they make it so intuitive. And then as the recruiter admin, I just run the analytics. Yeah. So LinkedIn recruiter is a huge part. Yes. To answer a chat, that's amazing. Manager recruiter seats, do they use them? Yes, they do. Yep.
Hey, Amanda, kind of circling back to you. I think I cut you off before you got into managing the pipelines and your follow-ups. I think that goes right in.
I was basically done with that. It's just getting in the habit of creating the reminders to follow up with candidates and keeping open line of communication, being honest and letting them know you don't have an update. If you don't, just whatever you do, just don't ghost them. It's the worst thing you could do. But yeah, I was done.
Gotcha. So Kara, let me jump back to you and to your items. And if you could kind of because I think people are fascinated that you got all your managers or a lot of your managers on LinkedIn. Can you kind of touch base on utilizing managers within your pipelining efforts?
Oh, yeah. So, yes, we do. We use them a lot. So basically, it has to come from the top down. So at Carvana, basically part of your job as any manager or leader at Carvana is we do a player coach mentality. So everybody does the job at Carvana and leads a team to do the job. So, and one of your main bullet points in your job description is recruiting. So at Carvana, you're responsible for recruiting for your team, even if your title isn't recruiter. So when you are a person in recruiting at Carvana, and you first do that job intake and you sit down, you start from this first job intake. When you go through it, you say, okay, so what part are you going to play in recruiting for your team? And so you get them involved from the start in pipelining candidates. And we say, okay, this is what recruiting is going to do. But in the meantime, please, we use Greenhouse as our ATS. Please, in the morning, assign someone on your team to go through Greenhouse and see if there's any candidates that you would like to move into screen one. And we move them into screen one because then a recruiter does the screen. But so they have to go through candidates. They're expected to use LinkedIn and their own personal networks to source candidates. And if they do, they say, hey, please apply through our career site, because then it goes into Greenhouse. And the recruiter still does it. And then when the recruiters meet with their hiring teams once a week to go through candidates, that's when you start to make sure that the candidates are in line with what you think you want. So yeah, from the very start, the hiring managers and the hiring teams and who's been assigned as the interviewers for those job recs are deeply involved in the recruiting process.
So when it comes to like the pipelining and the re-engagement of people that get added in, whether by you or the managers, your content calendar, right? In your email, you talked about your content calendar.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know if you wanted me to talk about the original topic for that, or if you want me kind of segue.
Yeah, sorry. Now we're segueing back. Yeah, let's go back to the original pieces.
Okay, so I kind of was building off of what Amanda was saying. So my tips for building a pipeline are very similar to what Amanda said, to piggyback off of what she said. So the first thing is very, very important. Like a few times, and I'm sure Michelle and Glenn, people have asked you a million times as leaders in your field, like, what's the difference between a good recruiter and a great recruiter? And it's not rocket science. It's do what you say you're going to do and make your follow-up calls. And it's just keep calling people, your 60, 90-day calls, always call back and do what you say you're going to do. So Amanda mentioned that, and make those calls and just call people back. So pipeline your candidates, and as soon as you get off the phone, like Amanda said, and you say you're going to call back, set your calendar invite or use your ATS to call those people back, right? So if a hiring manager or someone calls a candidate, or we don't like a candidate, or they were a first runner-up candidate, let's say you interviewed someone and they were the candidate you didn't hire, but they went through the interview process and they were your close second, you for sure want to set a 90-day follow-up, because you're going to have that job rec open again. That's going to be your first call the next time. So that's what you want to make your 90-day, even if you call that candidate, and it's whoever has the better relationship. So if the hiring manager loved that person or the recruiter loved that person, and if I say to my accounting manager or head of accounting, Sarah, you really love that candidate. You know you're going to have this rec open because we're growing in like 6 months. In 90 days, I need you to call that person and say, hey, what are you doing? How's it going? So I get them involved, and I'll put it on Sarah's calendar if I have to, or I'll bug her until she does it. So that's how I get them involved. So those 90-day calls. But for a content calendar, it harkens back to Amanda's social recruitment strategy. We just took it a step further. And so at Carvana, we know that we're a big brand company, right? And so when I started at Carvana 4 years ago, I would call people and say, okay, Kiata from Carvana. Who are you? Well, we sell cars out of a vending machine. And people be like what? Like, you're kidding. No, we're not. And so now we have a brand that we can use. So, and we have a weird brand because we are truck drivers, and we're mechanics, and we're data nerds, and we're tech nerds, and we're finance people, because we do sell cars. So we're a finance company. So we have all these facets to our business. So what we did was plotted out 12 months worth of content. And I have it in front of me, my content calendar. June 2020 was engineering. July was 4th of July freedom to love your job, right? August was our inspection centers. September was logistics. October was data science. November is Black Friday. We used to do a marketing campaign around Black Fridays, getting your car. And then we had all these years out. So we literally did the content for that month. So everybody at Carvana for that month, and we provided the content. If it was a cool picture or a video. So if it was logistics, we actually have a beautifully shot video of one of our favorite truck drivers who is a trip. And we kept that video and we sent that link out to the whole company and said, hey, everybody, Carvana's hiring. This is Tony. This is his video, social media blast. And the hashtag is Carvana, hashtag Carvana country, hashtag job love. And the whole company blast that out on their LinkedIn, on their social media, etc. And then on our career site, each department at Carvana has their own landing page with analytics attached to that landing page to track who visits that page to that department. So everything Amanda said, we just took it proactively a year out. And this also helps our brand team get ahead of it to write the copy, because we have to have our director of corporate communications approve the copy. So she gets to approve it a year in advance. So I'm not knocking on her door, hey, Amy, because I'm her headache, if you can imagine. But anyway, so yeah, so that's what we do. So it's a content calendar a year in advance with all the copy, all the videos, everything written out a year in advance. The hashtags are done a year in advance. It goes out, and so I send it out. You can also use certain tools if the recruiters or whoever wanted. There's planning tools so that I don't have to send them out the week before, but I do, just to be annoying. Hey, everybody. It's 1 week before October 1st. This is our October content. This is what's going out. And the hiring managers also get that content. Hey, everybody, this is what you're getting blasted out for October 1st. This is our content we're highlighting in October is data science and analytics at Carvana. Here's a cool presentation our head of product analytics did last week at ASU. This is and we edited down the video because it was an hour long. This is a cool video of what they did. Come work with Alex in product analytics. This is the cool stuff you're going to work on. Boom.
So a question for you around the content and the distribution, right? So it sounds like you're focusing a lot on social media. And this, again, is for all panels, how you do it. Is that your main way to deliver content to your pipelines, is through social media, or do you incorporate email, like direct emailing, email marketing tactics?
We don't really use email marketing. We do a lot. We call, we use LinkedIn a lot. We use LinkedIn Recruiter a lot. Referrals. We really want people to hit up their referrals. Referrals was 30, we hired 139 software engineers last year, and 32 of those were referrals.
Do you give bonus referrals to your employees?
We did last year. Yep. And then in certain surges, we'll raise it. Our hiring surge, for some reason at Carvana, because they love to ruin my holidays, is October through December. Right now is my hell time. Every other company I've ever worked for, people like to chill for the holidays a little bit, not at Carvana. So my hell time is October 1st to December 20th. And that's our hiring surges. So normally we'll raise our referral bonus, and starting in September, we'll do that. And then we'll get creative around that. So our head of tech operations, who works with our chief product officer, Amory, who's a goddess who rules the world. She and I are talking about some creative ideas, around a leaderboard, for example. There was one software engineer who he was responsible for 5 referrals. We looked at all the stats last year. Of those 32, he had 5 employee referrals last year. So this year, if you get 5 or more, your referral bonus jumps up $1,000. So incenting those people who really care to get their referrals in, that they make more money.
I've never seen the incentive growth in bonuses. That's pretty interesting to me. Very interesting.
Well, why not reward the people who are actually doing the outreach?
I can agree more.
Where does the leaderboard live?
we're just now figuring it out. Like we're like trying to get crafty to get our CFO to spend the money.
Nice.
Excellent.
I love that.
Thank you, Kara. Hey, Michelle, I'm going to kind of jump over to you and to your items that you have. But before I jump over there, I'm going to do a quick poll because we're kind of talking about tools and whatnot. Just going to do a quick poll on whether or not you have a CRM. And that's sort of just a general label. So if you have an ETS that acts like a CRM or a designated CRM, consider yourself, yeah, we have a CRM. I just kind of want to see what kind of tools people have. Let me get that going. And then Michelle, I can jump over to you.
Yeah, so I would just say that, I love Kiara's, 12-month mapping out. So I just want to give you a huge shout out for that because that's an idea I'm totally stealing and going to use. So thank you for that. And separately, with respect to some of the stuff we've been doing at IGT. So, there is a real need for talent. We don't have hiring managers, unfortunately, within IGT who are as savvy as Kiara's, who are jumping into LinkedIn and actually actively recruiting for talent. They'll look at the talent we're sourcing for them and make decisions. One of the things we've also found that we really need to do, because a lot of our roles are very niche or very specific to a particular, skill area within a product or something like that. And because we have such a strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, we've actually started to forge partnerships with community-based organizations in order to attract talent. So we've started to actually get closer within our communities where we reside with various organizations so that we're able to find talent that represents all walks of life, so we have relationships where we're able to find talent that maybe, that are very, skilled, engineers, but they happen to have maybe a disability or something along those lines. And so we have to make some sort of a, and actually right now, COVID's been our friend from that perspective, because we're not having to adapt anything right now because everybody's working virtually, but if they need an accommodation in the office or something like that. But we've also been able to look at leveraging other community-based organizations, as well as working in partnership with our our CSR. So like our corporate, I can't think of the name of them, our corporate social responsibility team, to sort of also help us get more connected from a workforce initiatives perspective with other kind of talent. And then again, it kind of goes back into that, well, how do you track, or how do you know, or how do you, sort of know what talent is where, and what goes back into our sourcing cohorts, leveraging the LinkedIn tool and the projects. And then again, we're able to sort of pull reports and things like that through that. But it's very similar. We use a lot of, I never thought of like actually putting a whole year out. That was awesome. I love that suggestion. So
I can send you my, the template.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Trust me, it seemed like daunting at first because I looked at it and I was like, eh, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. And then I had to write the copy and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so not creative and talented, but no one else is going to do it. So I did it.
No, that's cool. It's very cool. I mean, but I think what you're talking about, Kiara and Amanda and, and Sean, like even with the questions you're asking, it's like, we're having, I think in talent acquisition, we're having to really get creative in sort of how we think about how we connect with people. And we have to kind of do all things. So you have to be kind of boots on the ground and go out and meet people face to face when we can, because like right now it's not as easy to do that. But that's where the community-based organizations come in, being able to put together, like an integrated sort of social media strategy, with like a 12-month, mapped out year with hashtags and all of that stuff is another way to do it. And leveraging, technology, whether it's LinkedIn or your CRM or, I think we have to do all of these things. I mean, that's definitely kind of where we're at today. I don't see us being able to sort of like, I hate to say it, I'm a recruiter who's been around for quite some time. So so I can remember back in the days when we didn't have the technology like we do, and things have changed a lot. And I don't find that you do one thing, you kind of have to do everything. I mean, that's what I'm finding anyway.
Michelle, let me ask you this, and it's to your point where it's becoming very visible to the business line and expectations given the way the country is right now. Right, we're given definitions to go and do now, so expectations are being laid out. When it comes to the pipelining piece of it, and years back, I did some heavy sourcing with a biotech company, and pipelining biotech people, because they're so specific, our pipelines are very detailed, right? We had to we went down more than 2 layers that I was talking about before. We knew where schools were, we knew roles, we knew gender, we knew ethnicity, because the expectation in the company was our leaders want to know what talent are you bringing in. Are you getting into any detailed definitions around your pipelining? I mean, I'll keep it simple around gender or ethnicity. Are you being given goals to, hey, we need a pipeline of 40% women, for example, in certain roles or anything like that? Are the expectations coming down to get more granular in your pipelining?
It's a great question, Sean. And what I'll tell you is not in my current company, we haven't gotten into sort of specific goals. But I have worked in organizations where we did have goals like that and we did have to track. What we are doing are some studies of our demographics from sort of, and what I would say is it's from both a business level, but also from a kind of segment level. So, we might be looking at, one of our business units, say our gaming business unit, and looking at our demographics there. But then we might drill down within the technology organizations within that one particular BU to sort of see, because what we're finding is not everybody in our organization has the same need from a like diversification perspective. Some of our teams have have great representation by women or by race and ethnicity, and other groups the issue is like I would say within our P&T organization, for instance, we actually need to hire, if I was going to, we have a lot of women, we probably need to bring in some more men. But when we look at some of our other teams, that might shift. So what we're trying to do, as opposed to giving broad sort of like brush goals, is what I would call them. And that's sort of what I've had in the past, to sort of say, oh, we have to just increase the number of women, or to increase the number of, underrepresented, people of color and BIPOC, folks. I would say, we're trying to get away from that and be much more targeted and specific, and kind of looking at what the needs of the particular group are. But then within our pipelines, we are making sure that we have, diverse slates. So when we're presenting candidates, we're always ensuring that we're presenting, talent of all kinds, and looking for obviously the best talent to present.
I recently had a discussion with a TA leader. They're using Workday and Workday Recruit, so everything's combined and easy to get to now. So there's no excuses about, something's in the ATS and this, that, and the other. So the finance teams are getting involved more, and they're able to hire against plan. So for 2021, the plan is to have all our planned hiring in the system January. So recruiting team, what's going to be hiring in Q4. Since it's coming, our time to fill should be less, right? So now the question back is, well, hey, this isn't about existing applicants against a rec now, because the rec's not posted, it's not open. What's our pipeline like? Do we have X amount of qualified people? Can we get into predictive hiring, modeling, stuff like that? So that's where I know most companies, it's beyond that. They're not there for the most part. But I think with the tools and the concepts of building these pipelines, TA leaders might be able to step up and have those conversations with the business leaders. So I just think defining your pipelines, and Amanda, I'm with you, everything on the branding, but Glenn, I think you're more of a direct, I need this pipeline to fill this rec because I know it's coming type model too. We'll get to you in a second, but that's where I get into defining our pipelines in addition to just general branding or what have you. And I don't.
We are trying to evolve our team to being more of that mind that you were describing, Sean. We're trying to evolve away from requisition driven, sort of sourcing and pipelining activities to sort of more of a proactive pipeline and talent development, sort of constantly looking for the best, trying to evolve ourselves to being more opportunistic and, and sort of entertaining more exploratory, kind of conversations that result in a hire. Hey, we found this fantastic game producer. We would love you to talk with them. Something along those lines, doing more and more of that. But I'm not going to try to say we have it, completely perfect at the moment. This is something we're aspiring to. And it is complex. It is complex. It's not as simple as it sounds. So we're doing sort of a hybrid of something between what you described, Sean, is like that super evolved, like, here's all your recs for the year and you know what you're hiring from Q1 to Q4. We should have pipelines and we should be filling them super quick. I would say we have some of that. But then we have other groups that are still sort of playing catch up and trying to figure out, or we're doing replacement hiring we weren't anticipating. And so you end up in a rec situation, so sort of somewhere in the middle.
I'd like to make one comment on this whole pipelining thing. So the companies I've worked for have been primarily consulting companies, and they do project-based work. So we have subject matter experts in the areas of the service offerings that we offer to clients, right? So we got to the point where, if you look at it and say, oh, we want to hire a senior .NET developer in the second quarter. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, right? So especially we're pretty picky on the type of people we hire. So we got to the point where when we find a good resource, as long as it's like in the budget that year, that whether it's the second quarter or third quarter, when we find that good resource, we hire them. And here's the difference. When you're hiring somebody at a certain point in time, you're going to get the best person that's available at that given time, right? Instead of maybe somebody that's even better, right? That's available at not the timing. This business is a lot about timing, right? So, but that's what we got to, and that helped the last company I worked for tremendously. When you have some open minds with senior management, as long as the budget's there in that given year, you'd be a little more flexible, and it worked out well for us. So, but it made a difference.
Yeah, kind of around the not now but later people, right? Whatever tool you're using when you reach out and interested, just not right now. To me, those are people like, okay, I believe they're qualified. I believe they're interested. The availability, to your point, Glenn, was off. Around getting into pipeline management, a trick that I always used to do that worked like a charm for me. And I understand the follow-up and the 90 and the 180 day type process, Kira. The way I always did my follow-up was this is before I had CRMs, just spreadsheets. I had 12 tabs, one for each month. And when you said, call me back in June, I put you in the June tab. If you said October, I put you in the October tab, or 6 months from now, whatever you said. And then when that month would come around, I had my list of people to follow up, copy, paste in my BCC. Hey, you wanted me to reach out to you this time. Open for a conversation or something to that effect. So I always sort of set up the context of the conversation. So for me, that's just my little tip here is if you don't have a tickler file or a CRM, I know then the poll is about a 50-50 split if you had a CRM, just having a place to put your people for follow-up and kind of defining what they are, like engineer, sales, or what have you, work like a charm for me around that follow-up piece of it. But circling back real quick to you, Michelle, those big plans, I totally agree with you. It is an endeavor. I will be the first to admit, and I'm an ops person, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but if you don't have a CRM, I don't know how you would ever get there to set those goals. It's almost like a must-have, no matter which CRM you pick, or if your ATS does it. Big believer in that. All right, Glenn, you had some interesting way you do your pipeline. Can we jump over to you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm in a pretty, it's difficult to describe what I do because I do partial corporate recruiting for the companies I work for, the consulting companies. Then I sometimes recruit more like an agency on-demand staffing. And then the third thing, which is different than most people are probably used to, is I recruit for project-based work, right? What that means is we're bidding on a project, say, and I'll give you a prime example. With a client, we need 4 agile coaches that we're trying to do an agile implementation with a client or organizational transformation. So and then we have a subject matter expert that leads our agile practice. So what happens is I find out about this early on because I need to start pipelining people and I need to really build a team. We don't have everybody available internally for that project. So I need to build a team over time. The problem with this business and what makes it tricky is the client says, oh, I want to engage by the end of November. And in reality, a lot of times they may not engage till 2 months after that, right? Because of things that are going on internally in their organization. So I constantly have to build a pipeline of people that I haven't hired yet for this project until the client says, okay, you won the project, we want to start in 2 weeks, so I can't wait till the client says, go ahead and, and start recruiting then. So it's pretty interesting what I do a lot, what I've done a lot in the past. So it's hard to pipeline and say, I'm going to call somebody back in X amount of months in my business. I mean, that would be the ideal way, but the sense of urgency is like real high where I am. So I keep a pipeline of people with certain skill sets, say agile coaches, say senior .NET developers, whatever it may be, project managers, et cetera. And that pipeline of people I've spoken with, and they're part of my network. I also keep a pipeline in trying to reach out to people that are one step above, and I mentioned this, one step above the skill set. So maybe they're not a .NET developer today, but maybe they're a manager, an application manager, and they manage .NET developers, because that's a great source of referrals. But that's a different message I'm sending those people. It's more of a referral message, not that are you interested in working here yourself, right? So those are things that I keep. And then I have, it's a personal network of mine that I keep. It's a separate hot list, you may call it, but over all the course of time, good candidates that I've spoken with, regardless of their skill set, if I think they're really quality people, that's a totally separate pipeline I keep, and I keep accumulating that over time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that you just do that because you have relationships with these people, and they know, if I'm out looking for a position, I may send them an email once a month. Here's all the open opportunities I have. Very rarely do I get people saying, "Take me off your list." Very rarely. Because they know one day, they'll come back to me 9 months later and call me up and say, hey, I'm available now in the marketplace. And I do it with an email because people don't delete emails. A lot of people save them. If you have a voice message, they'll just easily delete that, et cetera. So, but the one thing that it's kind of a pet peeve of mine, I love LinkedIn. And I know it's not the only source. One panelist said that one attendee said that you may be
where else?
Losing good candidates, because or not seeing all the candidates. I know a lot of people don't use LinkedIn. So the thing with LinkedIn, though, is I love using projects, reaching out to people I've never reached out to before and sending them a mass email or whatever. But the problem with LinkedIn is it's a Band-Aid. It's not an ATS system. They're trying to make it into something it's really not. And the problem is when you have an ATS system and then you have people and projects in LinkedIn, you want to get those people into your database, into your ATS system and pipeline them there. You don't want to, now you have two separate systems, a LinkedIn project folder, and now you have your ATS system you're trying to build. We build hot lists in our ATS system, or call that a pipeline. They call it hot lists in the tool I use. But in any event, that makes it difficult. What I need is a tool. I just was thinking of this the other day, to be able to take a URL from LinkedIn, download that profile. I know some ATS systems download profiles from LinkedIn into an ATS system, but if you're not connected, in a first level connection, it doesn't carry over any contact information. There's other tools we use like Rocket Reach for the sales. If you put a URL link into the tool, it comes up with a person's email address and phone numbers. It would be great to have a tool in LinkedIn where you can just download people from LinkedIn right into your ATS. That would be great. And then you could build hot lists off that.
We have that. If you have a LinkedIn Enterprise agreement, there is a tool that allows that.
We can talk offline about that. Yeah. Enterprise for your enterprise. Yeah, sure. You're spending enough money with them, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think you should ask your LinkedIn rep. There might be a way because it's an easy widget. There's an easy widget.
I think we have tags that we put on our postings, and each recruiter has that, and then it just sort of goes back to the recruiter.
Yeah, because using projects and then, having your own ATS system, it's like a dual thing, and it just doesn't make any sense to do it that way. But anyway, one other point I want to make, as far as with individuals. So the people that may not be on LinkedIn, we reach out. There's two things I want to mention. One is user groups, right? It's big, especially on the technology side, whether it's Agile, .NET. I always try to get and find these communities and these user groups, and always try to find out who chairs them, who's the head of them, who's the founder of these groups, to get our name branded out there. We try to speak at these events and things like that. That's very big at just trying to brand yourself. The other thing is too, and these companies I work for that had subject matter experts like the Agile practice director, the portfolio and project management practice director, et cetera, we get them, they created what we call communities of practice. And we get people involved in that, people that don't work for our company. And it's almost like a user forum, but people that we want to stay connected with. And that's another way that we build our reputation, build pipelines, and get people, engaged in our company that aren't hired. So that's another thing too that I wanted to mention. So
real quick question to kind of, this for all panelists, to kind of summarize the pipeline. There's a question in the chat area earlier around what size should a pipeline be? I don't think, no pun intended, I don't want to go this way. I don't think size is important. But it's really kind of dependent on what you're trying to get out of it. Like if it's a pipeline it could be a pipeline of 5, and that could be the 5 best people that can do the job, and that's all you really need, right? It's quality over quantity. So what are your thoughts around the size matters? I'll say that one there.
Yeah, I think isn't it a qualitative versus quantitative thing? So it depends on what we're sourcing for. Like we have roles where it is definitely volume. Like we have a call center, we have some field operational roles and manufacturing roles. And those are more, I would say quantitative than they are qualitative. But when we get into our experienced roles, we would definitely say less is more. We'd want fewer candidates, but higher quality. So that's sort of how I would answer that. It's like, it depends, I guess, is sort of the answer.
Anybody else around that? I think that's sort of the obvious, right?
Yeah, I think it's, well, first of all, you want people that are in your pipeline, when you identify them as this is a quality person, that person becomes part of your pipeline, right? And everybody knows good people know good people and they refer good people, right? And obviously referrals is my number one source, always been my number one source of hires. And so if I have 10 people or 100 people, it doesn't really matter. If I reach out to all of them, say in an email, if I need something more urgently, it's interesting that you'll get a different response from 1 month to maybe 2 months down the road, that different people their situation has changed and they become available. So I really think if you have a quality pipeline, then it doesn't matter if it's 10 or 100 people in it. I think the more the better, actually, for me. But you really, what I've learned in this business over the last 20 years, if you start out with a B-level candidate that really will never be hireable, and you continue that conversation with that candidate, it's going to send you down a path of less productivity, without a doubt. So,
Yeah, that's a waste of time. Someone actually brought it up in the chat thing. Someone said, what about at Sean? Thanks for the answer to say more quality, but then how to measure quality. And it's like, you can't, if you're a 1 year or 2 year recruiter, it's almost like, honey, I can't answer that for you. Wait, you figure it out. You'll know when to start spending your time with those candidates who have become quality. And quality will start referring quality. Yep. You'll start spending time with quality, and your recruiter gut will start telling you when someone's just bullshit.
Yeah. And at one point I want to make too, and the reason why I have that overall network is because if you're looking, say, for a senior .NET developer in technology, right? Well, there's project managers that have worked with senior .NET developers, and they're not a .NET pipeline, but they're in your pipeline. And those are people I reach out to. And I can't tell you how many referrals I got of people that not in their specific skill set, but people they work with. And so that's why that overall pipeline that I have is so valuable also.
Well, yeah, especially, and again, for pipelining, you mentioned it, Glenn, there's like 2 pipelines. People that you're going to hire in almost greenfield recs that you are always going to hire. And then the pipeline of people that you've trusted, that you've built up, that know will refer you good candidates for stuff you're going to need. It's just too. I'm interviewing someone right now at Carvana who I hired 15 years ago.
Right, exactly. And keep in mind, these people that are in my overall pipeline are people that were candidates of mine that I tried to get jobs for, whether it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it doesn't really matter, but they trust me, and I differentiate myself from the typical recruiter they get a call from, so that's the difference. And that's why I don't mind sending them emails, even though it's not for them directly.
Right. And then the other thing is those touch points. And I do this all the time. Like, you got to not be a gross salesperson. Like, a lot of times those 90-day, like, if I know when I'm going to call someone and they're not going to make a move and they just took a job and like they just said no to me, which I hate no. No is so annoying. I'm like, I don't like no. I'm like a toddler with a tantrum. Like I do. I'm just like, no just means I'll get you eventually.
Yeah.
But like when they tell me no, and that just pisses me off, then I'm like, okay, well, I know you're going to take a job and I'm pissy about it. I'm going to call you in 6 months and see how that job's going. And they think I'm bullshitting, but I do it. And I call them 6 months to the day, just so I can say, hey bro, I said 6 months to the day. It's 6 months to the day. How's that job going? And they tell me and whatever. And I go, okay, I'm going to call you every 6 months till you're sick of this job. And I do it. And because they don't think you're going to do it. And that's the thing. It's psychologically telling them you do what you say you're going to do, because eventually they're going to get sick of that job, especially most of in tech. Nobody stays in a tech job for the average is 5 years, right? Eventually they're going to leave.
I thought the average was more like 2.5.
A little over 3 years. Yeah, it's getting little less and less over time.
Yeah, but I'm usually working with senior level people. So, but like, that's the thing. They're eventually going to leave, right? So then sometimes I'm not making a sales call. I'm not saying ditch your job and come to Carvana. Like, I'm usually just saying, hey, what's up? How's it going? What's going on? What's going on at your job? What are you working on now? What do you like about it? What sucks about it? Is this cool? Is this not cool? Cool. That's it. I don't even make the sales pitch. I'm just proving that I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. That's the difference between a good recruiter and a great recruiter. Staying in touch, do what you say you're going to do, be there and listen to what they're saying to you. Like, and that's it. And that's the difference. And that's like those calls. And eventually that person remembers you. And that's the difference. Like, again, which is why this person who I'm interviewing now, I haven't talked to this guy now in 5 years. He's been doing his own thing. He went to Dubai. He came back, but he's like, hey, I'm back in the States. I want a job, Kiata. Can I work at Carvana? I'm like, holy shit. How are you doing, bro? Like, but like, he remembered me because I did what I said
you were going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question.
One thing I did want to add, just that I forgot to mention within our ATS, we use Greenhouse. And aside from the reminders, I also make very unique tags for every candidate. So like, again, for engineering, I think most of us, we have different levels. So I will put software engineer level 3, and I also include the year, because then I can come back next year and be like, oh, we're looking for someone who's mid-level. Maybe this person has, improved and he's a level 4 now. He or she is a level 4 now. So now I can go to that pipeline and find the person quick and go from there.
Yeah, you got to start tagging like you're a graffiti artist in the 80s in New York. Like, seriously, like if you've done your tags, like you can do it from senior engineer you can say like .NET A-list player, .NET B player, requires a visa. That's a huge tag. Tagging, we tag. Like it's a big one. Tagging for sure. Like that's huge. It's super helpful. Plus at Carvana, a lot of jobs require a bachelor's degree. So tag no bachelor's degree. Tag, that are huge. Yep.
Let me ask a quick question, kind of bringing the tools question back into it, because I'm a big believer in the 6-month follow-up after a job change. And if somebody's in your pipeline who changed jobs and you missed them right when they're out there looking, does anybody know of a tool? It's probably going to be targeting LinkedIn that tracks job changes. I haven't found one, and it's the holy grail to me.
I'm going to call Afan, our senior LinkedIn rep, and be like, you're wasting your time if you're not doing this.
Because on like my CRM, I can see the visual profile of somebody on LinkedIn, so I'm visually looking to see if they changed jobs to what company I have them assigned to. But like kind of a trigger to say, hey, Susie left her nursing position at this hospital. She's now in a different place.
Well, it does send you notices. LinkedIn sends you a
LinkedIn.
notice that says, congratulate blank on getting a new job.
To your number one connections, right?
Yeah, just to your number ones, and that goes into my LinkedIn folder with a whole lot of other. So I want something in my face with the targeted group, whether or not I'm connected to. That's my wish list for it. All right, hey, we ran pretty long here. A really good conversation once again. Because to me the 2020 is an opportunity to build pipelines for 2021. Again, getting back, I don't want to throw anybody in there just for the sake of building pipelines. I myself have been scolded by recruiters for if I manage the pipelining going too broad, and I would get yelled at. You're sending me people I'll never hire. Why are you doing that? So to come back and kind of get more of a rifle approach versus the broad approach. But any final thoughts or comments around managing your pipelines once you have them built versus just building them? But once you got them, communication was a big key from the audience, their recommendations. Any final thoughts on pipelining as a whole?
Yeah, I just said that we should always be doing it. I mean, that's sort of where I'm at. I mean, like if you stop pipelining, then you've basically shut down your recruiting process. So you should always be pipelining. There's always a role, there's always an opportunity, there's always a person that you need to connect with.
I agree with that. I agree with that. It's like the equivalent of I use the analogy of sales, right? A good salesperson will always spend at least 15% of their time seeking new business, right? Not just maintaining existing business. And it's the same thing with a recruiter. You got to keep, having fresh candidates come in.
Yeah, I think communication, follow through, and don't sleep on the recruiting marketing. It helps your pipelining so much. So get on that.
Yep.
My final thought is that kind of, Michelle, I think what you're saying is the day you post the rec is the day you're engaging your pipeline on it, because that's your pre-qualified interested candidates already. That outreach should go with that posting if you're posting it, if not before you're posting. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. I'll let everybody go and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thank you,
All right,
guys.
bye-bye.
Hey, thanks.